Hello, Inspiration Nation. Welcome to another week on the podcast. There's no Lee, there's no Ryan, because we have another lovely guest with us this week. This week, I'm introducing you to Lucy Laker. She is the owner of the Freedom 3 store. She started this in Instagram in January, so relatively new but really exciting. We connected because you know we had some great energy and we come from a similar place. Lucy was originally in Heathfield, I'm in Helsham. That's sort of a connection, and I just felt a great thing to reach out because I felt to post inspirational messages, which I think fitted what we're going to talk about. So I just want to say thank you for coming on, Lucy. How are you feeling?
Oh, thank you, Joe. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling good today. I'm feeling excited about this podcast, and I'm ready to share some gems with you and share my story so I can inspire other business owners out there.
Fantastic, that's really great. So just tell us a little bit, because I know like starting a business is hard, right? Because you've got to start it, you've got to get everything together. Mm-hmm. But even before that, just tell me a little about yourself and your story, really, and your journey.
Okay, so it's quite a long story, but I'm going to kind of summarize it. I came to the UK at 9 years old, and I then went into the system. I can tell that story another time. And basically, I've kind of worked my way around being away from my family and being away from friends and being in the local authority. And basically, I became also a teenage mother at 17, and I went on to live independently. So that's basically my humble beginnings, where I actually started.
So quite tough, right? So it must have been really difficult starting at that age. Tell me a bit more about that. What was the difficulties? What were the struggles? What were you facing at that time?
Facing as the 9-year-old coming to the UK as an asylum seeker or as a young parent?
Both. Because I think they're both difficult things, right? Coming to a new country, all that sort of stuff, all the challenges, I imagine, that you've seen, all the things you've seen. And here you are, right, talking on this podcast. I know we're going to talk about this in a minute, but I think it's nice for people to understand a little bit who's behind this amazing story, really. So that's really what I'm after, both, really.
Okay, so right. So I'm originally from Uganda, the northern part of Uganda, a place called Kitgum. And there was a lot of war, a lot of political stuff going on in my country. So therefore, my mum decided it was a good idea for her to bring her children over to the UK for number one, safety, number two, for our education, a better education. So that's the reason why I initially came into the UK. And from that, I was placed in, it's almost like a children's home, like a rehabilitation children's home based on the trauma that I faced back home with the war and stuff like that. So I was there in Heathfield. That's where the connection came. I mentioned to you in our previous conversation. I lived in Heathfield in East Sussex for 2 years during that period between 9 and 11. And then I came back to London to start my secondary school.
Wonderful. But how was that? How was it transitioning?
Also, once I came to London, I found it very hard and very difficult to kind of integrate with some younger people, because I felt very different. Number one, because I had an accent. Wow. I felt very isolated as well because I didn't have, say, my mom around, advice and stuff like that. I was in the care of family. So that was quite a difficult time for me.
In the care of family and stuff like that. So you're away from your mum.
Yes.
Wow, that must have been really difficult because you couldn't sort of just get in touch with your mum. Tell me how that was. Like, you reach out to your mum and stuff.
It's a challenge. I mean, in terms of say bonding with my mom, that wasn't an issue.
Okay.
Say that, sorry.
No, that's all right. I just said, yeah, like not being able to sort of be to come, but you said you had to live with a family. How was it living with a family that you, I suppose, did you just get placed with them? Did you get to, did you get to know them a little bit better, or was it just you were just placed with them? Because I don't really know much about how that's done. I think it's just, I think how does that happen?
Well, how it worked is I did have siblings who took care of me, but I left home um, at 13 years old. I know it sounds absolutely crazy, but I ran away from home at 13, and I felt the reason why, as I've grown up, kind of like tried to rationalize and find out the reasons why, but it was almost a cry for help, in terms of like not having around, not having that kind of guidance from my mom, because I was very attached to her and very, very close to her, which I'm still am now. So that was a difficult moment for me, being placed in the care of my siblings, and they were young themselves. So they were learning how to parent a teenager, which is difficult in itself. So there was a bit of a clash at times within the household. So I I left the family home, and that's how I got to the care system with Lambeth local authority at about 13 years old.
Well, so you ran away from home at 13, right? You just said you ran away from home at 13. I can't
Yeah.
imagine what that's like, because people who listen to this, maybe they have a similar story, right? But I've got two girls myself, and I can't
Mm,
imagine them running away and surviving.
mm,
So I suppose they may, but there's a lot of stuff that could go on.
yeah.
Um, and so for me, it's just like,
I know.
how was that? I mean, did you just decide one day, or was it planned? Was it, I mean, because that takes one, a lot of
It wasn't planned per se. It was
right.
just a moment of um, uh,
You carry on. It's all right. I got you. Carry on.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I don't know what kind of like motivated me to leave that night, but it was something in me. Like it was just like a code mechanism, because there was a lot going on within the household. Like I had a sibling who was really poorly, uh, actually she was passing away. So I was finding all the things really difficult to manage, like my emotions in terms of like I was experiencing at home, and I was experiencing a lot of bullying in school as well, in that period. So it was a case of like trying to find escape. So I had a friend during that period. I went to the same school with her, and she advised me that if there was any time I had any problems with it in my household, I can be placed somewhere else. So to me, that sounded like a great idea. Like, well, I don't have to wash anymore. I don't need to get told off anymore. I didn't rationalize it very well. As you do as a child, you're really thinking about the consequences, or the outcome of your actions. So yeah, I just got up and just left.
Wow. Wow. That's a really big decision, isn't it?
Yeah,
You said you were bullied or something. Was that bullied at school? What
yeah,
was that about?
yeah.
What happened there? Tell us a bit more about that, and if you don't mind. I think it's probably something that's
Um,
quite common, isn't it?
no,
Like,
that's okay. I'm happy to
hmm,
share. My bullying experience was more um, about I wasn't fitting in with with some of the young people. Like I said, my accent was different to a lot of the children in my school. Obviously coming from Uganda, um, I had an accent. So for me, for the young people, that was a talking point. And for them it was funny, or it was something menial, like taking my lunch money for a
wow.
tuck shop. So I was finding myself every break time hiding away from the bullies, and it just came too much. But lucky for me, I went to a school called Dixford, Falls Hill, and it wasn't really the best school. A lot of people would admit that it was terrible during the 90s. Like you had to be very strong to survive to get a day through that school. So that was my experience. And what I did to try and get away from the bullies as well, I threw myself into like music. So during lunch hours, like during the lunch breaks, after I finish my lunch, I will go into the music room, and I learned how to play the flute. I learned how to read music. and I learned how to play the steel pan. So creativity, me being creative was almost like an escape for me, well, from getting away from the bullies.
So, like, you know, going away, maybe taking yourself away and doing something you love, so they would just not find you, I suppose.
Yeah.
Was there a little bit of hiding in there, do you think, or do you
No,
think it was just to get away from them? Right? Am I right or not? Was it, or just
I think a bit of both, just getting away from them, that, and also just I like being creative. That's my happy space. So it worked out in my favour.
Yeah, I can tell that. I mean, like all the stuff you do on Freedom Store, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But it's a very lot of creativity, especially since I've been seeing, it's been fantastic. So I can see that sort of shining through. And music, like that's fantastic. Read music.
Yeah.
That's so hard,
Well, I can't. I'm 40 now. I can't read music anymore. I haven't held a flute over 20 years, so I wouldn't even know how to play. No, so it was a clarinet. That was my instrument.
Okay.
But I wouldn't know how to play the clarinet or how to read music anymore.
You never know.
So since I was younger.
You never know. Might pick it back up again. You're right.
Well, you never know. Yeah,
You never know,
I just
right?
need to get one and see if I can still play it.
So you could do it. Brilliant. So you kept referencing accident. What was this? You said an accident or something. What's this accident? You said, I didn't know you said there was an accident or something. Is that right?
Accent. Accent.
Oh, accent. Oh, so that's me. Sorry, that's me. My hearing.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, it's because your accent. Is that what you said? Okay.
No, yeah, my accent was different.
Accent. Oh, okay. Yeah, and that. I mean, going through that bullying phase, you found sanctuary in music. So what happened after that then? So you went and did music, you did all that. So what happened next? You did that. What happened next after that?
Yeah. Okay, so my education was really impacted because of what was going on at home, with siblings being really poorly. So after that, I moved on to a different secondary school as I had too many problems at Dick Shepherd. So I moved on to an all-girl school called Lara Trait, that's in Balham. I was there for some time, but I wasn't in my attendance because now at that point I was in the time of the local authority, and I wasn't in touch with most of my family. So it was difficult because, like, when you're in a children's home or with foster parents or say in a semi-independent unit, the staff members don't have that kind of authority to, they might ask you and remind you and knock on your door and say, "Look, you need to go to school." But to me, I just didn't feel like I wanted to listen or was ready to listen. Or, I was missing home, I was missing my family, I was missing my mom. So for me, I wasn't functioning well in school, and I don't think I got the right support from my teachers. I didn't get the right support at all. In fact, they made some situations worse for me. I mean, when my attendance was bad, it was a case of, I'll give you an example, a story about when we had a placement, as you do, I believe in 9 young children have like work placements. So one of my teachers, because my attendance was so bad during the period, because I was moving so much, actually in 1 year I moved about 10 times between like different foster placements and that kind of stuff. So the teacher said to me, for my placement, because of my bad attendance record, I would end up cleaning the toilets. Wow. That was her words to me, that's what I will do, or that's what I'm going to do. There weren't any consideration of, let's help Lucy find a placement, or let's look at what her family life is like. They were aware that I was in the care of local authorities. So there wasn't no compassion, empathy in terms of like my care, in terms of like, teachers supporting me. So that kind of made me feel like I need to, work harder. There's nothing wrong with anyone that will clean toilets, but but to me, I feel like my friends were all doing this working in fashion stores and all this kind of stuff. I was thinking, so why me? Why you asked me to go and do this, and I had to come into the school to do that. So I refused. I'm quite stubborn sometimes. I just didn't do it.
Yeah, I can tell.
I challenged the teachers and I didn't do it.
Yeah, and I can tell that. You can see the determination in your face. I mean, I think that's probably what's stood you instead where you've gone into your future, right? So, yeah, I mean, like you said, there's
Right,
nothing wrong.
exactly.
There is nothing wrong with cleaning toilets at all. Actually, you're right, but it's the whole aspirational thing, isn't it? It's about
Absolutely not.
you
I
might
mean,
start.
to me,
You
a
might
job
start.
is a job, and as long as you do well,
Yeah,
you get paid and you support your family. To me,
yeah,
that's I believe.
yeah. And you can start there, can't you? And you can just go from there, whatever it is, right? So, but then such a young age as well, where you're not really
Exactly.
getting that support, and trying to feed your dreams, I suppose, is that whole thing about that environment where where
Hmm.
you want that. Now I know we talked a little bit about, because when I know
Hmm.
when we connected, you did tell me a little bit. You sent me a little article about your mum, right?
Hmm.
About your mum
Yes.
and the story
Oh
behind
my
it.
God, my mom, she's really my hero.
So I've got a feeling around this that
Yeah.
this,
Um.
although it was difficult, I think, I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong, but there was something you drew
Mhm.
some of that maybe. Do you want to just tell the story about it? Because I think it's really inspiring, and I think our listeners would love to hear it from the actual, from you.
Okay, sure. So my mom made the hard decision to bring me and to the UK. So she was a professional. She was a teacher, primary school teacher for 11 years, and from that, she decided she wanted to be a business owner, and she found a love and a passion for beekeeping. So she quit her job as a teacher, and she became a beekeeper. And she used well, she was kind of she was supported by my grandfather. She had that kind of support from her parents. So she's done very, very well. She's very inspiring. She's like my role model that I look up to in terms of like business. She's been a beekeeper for over 25 years. That's with her, freedom to kind of like travel the world and also, connect with other women. She's been able to inspire women, in terms of like in themselves, making sure they're able to earn and then to support themselves and family. So she's my mom who kind of like teaches me a lot about, empowering others, especially women in business.
Yeah, this is a pretty big deal, though. I think you've underplayed it. This is like a big deal. It's like we're creating all sorts of products, and it's massive. Like, I don't know,
Amazing.
you've underplayed it there.
She has about 10 products currently. I'm part of the business as well. It's a family business, but mom runs everything from the end on. My role in the business is pretty much the marketing, things like getting the labels for the jars and, stuff like that. And sometimes purchasing equipment, honey beekeeping equipment, and sending it overseas for her. So that's kind of my role. And for my mom, her idea was she wanted to leave a legacy for her children and for her grandchildren. So the name of the business actually has all of her children's initials. It's called Jalema Holdings. So with that, it's all her children's names is in there. We all have a role to play within the business. I mean, we try as much as we can, but because she is overseas, and obviously being in the UK, we do have other responsibility, i.e. family, our own children and stuff like that. So it's been a bit of a challenge, and more so now since the COVID has happened, it's been a lot harder to kind of like function, for the business to function. Well, here in the UK, yeah.
Wow, God. I mean, there was. I want to go back. I want to go to that COVID. I want to go back to that COVID bit, because I want to go and see. We can dig into a little bit of that. But there was the bit that I really found inspiring on the
Hmm.
story about the actual hives and what happened in the hives, because they're empty, weren't they?
Hmm.
And then what happened? What did she do?
Yes.
This what inspired me. Like, so when I read this article, there was empty hives, and again,
Yeah.
please, Lucy, you stop me if I'm
Yes.
wrong. And she believed that they would populate. They were empty, right? There were no bees in the hives, and she said, "No, they're going to be popular.
Right.
I'm going to start the business." And then suddenly they got populated, right? And it all started from there. Am I got that right?
Right.
And then this.
You have got it right. And I think when my mom speaks about that, her name's Margaret Rose. So when she speaks about that in the article, like it reminds me about self-belief and believing that better will happen. And I think it's what has carried her through her whole life and throughout her whole business, and it's made her successful, is just that belief system that something great and something amazing will happen. And I have that, you know, I think I have that in me also. Well, I know I have that in me as well. So I'm pleased, and I'm just proud of everything she's achieved. And also she teaches me a lot about work ethic and about, you know, because she's my mom is like 76 now. Oh God, she'll kill me her actual age, but she still can work up 19 hours a day. And you know, when I was working full time, I would complain about in 4 hours in the office, but she would work until and doing the agriculture, and she will not complain. She doesn't complain. She just gets on with it, you know. So she's so focused, and that's something that I need to kind of pick up more on, the focus and just being less complacent.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot one of the you know, that's one of the sort of written rules of success, isn't it? To work hard and to, if you believe in it, right? And I think belief and working hard go hand in hand, because if you don't do that, then it's not going to happen. And clearly she's done that, and she's made a great success, and she's still helping you guys from overseas, which is pretty inspiring, to be fair. Because, I mean, you guys must be really, you know, you've got a family.
It really is. It really is. I think she deserves, you know, well, she won quite a few awards as well for what she does. But she's just amazing, and that's just like my inspiration. Like, she keeps inspiring every day with her words and her actions as well.
Okay, tell us a little bit how she inspires you. I know she's done business.
That at least I have one person I can look up to. If I don't have anyone, I have one person that I can look up to.
So I know, you look at how she's built the business, but is there one thing that you could specifically point out that inspires you 100%? What would it be? What is it?
In terms of her business, I think for her, it's about it's about making profits, and that's it. She said, you run business to make profit. So whether you're making a £1 profit, or you know, or you're making 20 pence profit, she's like, businesses that are very successful, i.e., like the pet shops, is about selling the quantity. Then you can make your money back. You know, if you're not making that profit back. So I always remember that when she's like giving me business advice.
Because it must be quite hard, I suppose, starting a business. You probably see it sort of, it starts a bit slow. I don't know. You'll tell us a bit in a minute. And I suppose having that belief that it's going to work out, or is your idea going to fly? And again, those sort of beliefs around that, if you can, you can still make a bit of money. That's signs that it's growing a little bit, I suppose. And I think that's pretty quite. That's, you know, that's something to hold on to. So tell us a bit about COVID and how that's impacted that business, but also how has it impacted you? With the COVID, it's not been the greatest situation, but I try not to be complacent, because it's people in a situation than I have been in, and say my mom's been in. I was actually even poorly myself about a month during this whole period. I was so ill, couldn't get out of bed, you know, issues with breathing, but I'm back to good health now. So I'm really pleased about that. How it's impacted on business? As you know, at the beginning of this past, I started trading on the 1st of January. That's the date that I had on my mind from last year when I was doing my business plan. Like I said, I want to be my business to be functioning by the 1st of January, and I met my target. So I was really happy and excited. Like, hey, you know, my dreams come true. I can do what I need to do now and focus 100% on this. But then COVID happened, and so where I used to stock products in a shop in Croydon, it's called Nashat, they had to close down. So I wasn't able to make any income from some of the products that was being stocked in that store. And also there was issues around suppliers, you know, me getting some items from suppliers needed for my clients. So it was just delays after delays. So I literally, for about 2 months, did absolutely nothing. I just shut the business down. I let the clients know, like, look, you know, I'm not taking any orders. I can't guarantee that you're going to get your product on time. And that is a risk in itself, because I was losing out on money. People were making requests. Some people were happy to wait for as long as it takes to get T-shirts and hoodies and jumpers. It's impacted really bad in terms of like
profits and stuff like that. Things are picking up a little bit, but people are still conscious about going to the store to shop. People are still very conscious about that. So I don't know how this is going to change or when it's going to change, but I'm very hopeful that things will get better very soon.
So in light of that then, so you've adapted to adapt, right? So how have you adapted? I mean, you've gone online, right? So tell me about that. How did you transition from, I suppose, because it's like it's a brand new business, right? You launch, you get excited, right? The dream's happening. COVID happens, you then transition. You go, hey guys, look, I'm going to have to close this because I can't get your products. But then you have customers that are saying, so you said to the customers, we'll wait. So how did that happen? How did you sort of generate that customer loyalty? And I think secondly, how do you still make out? Because now, well, what now? We're August, aren't we? As we're recording this, we're coming up for the middle of August.
Yes.
You're still trading, right? So something's working. So talk us a bit through that, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Well, me, I believe how I run my business at the moment is a case of, I don't have a website per se. So what I prefer at the moment, what really works for me and my customers, they directly message me on Instagram, and that gives a way to communicate. I get to know the customer, they get to know me, I get to know what their needs are, what they want. I feel like when they're, on a website, they don't get that person-to-person interaction. So I feel that's where my customer loyalty is, and I will actually continue doing that because I do love interacting with them. They're just amazing. They inspire me, and they want to support me, and they want to support my dreams. So what I do is I give back by giving my time. I give back by giving quality products and just being very honest with them. If the product's going to be posted late or there's a delay, I'm just always making sure that I communicate that well with them, and they appreciate that. And I do get repeat customers based on the interaction that we have in the direct messages on Instagram.
It just shows you the power of Instagram, doesn't it? And your tenacity to follow it through.
Absolutely.
So, you've just used Instagram as a shop. Is that what you're saying? You've used it as a shop to communicate, right? Do you speak to them? Do you text them? What's the sort of interaction like? Do people now prefer to text and do the transaction, or is it like a call, or what's the sort of what do your customers how do they like to interact with you?
It's whatever the customer wants. So if they prefer to have a phone conversation, I do have a business line that they can ring and they can tell me and describe what products they want. Because sometimes not everyone has the ability to type or know how to spell and that kind of stuff. So that could be a challenge for some. So I'm more than happy to take phone calls during the working hours. It just depends on the customer, really. It's all about them and how they the interaction to work.
Oh, I love that. It's like you are opening up. You got a phone number, and you got that. So it's not on Instagram. So now it's not just Instagram. There's a phone number people can call, right? I love that. I was going to say. So okay.
Email. Any way you can get hold of me, or if you. So I'm just literally available majority of the time. Well, even out of hours, I still work. Even when I finish this podcast, I'm still communicating with customers, letting them know, even sending them invoices at 10 o'clock at night. They understand, and I like that I don't have specific time for my job. That's what I love about it. It's very flexible.
Is that because I mean, I was going to ask you now, what was the inspiration for the business? And I don't know, did I get a hint that Freedom 3 store, something to do with that? I don't know. Am I reading something into this? I don't know. You tell me. So, how did you come up with the name? Because I want people to really understand the personality between Freedom 3 store. I want to understand the personalities, get excited about your dream. And it is, you're getting people excited about your dream, right? You are. Because people
it's awesome. It's awesome. It's such a beautiful feeling from it, just being a dream or just an idea to it coming to life, and it's just the self-belief again, going back to how my mom empowered me to believe in myself, so that it just feels amazing. So what inspired me to start Freedom 3 store? I'm a mom of a 22-year-old daughter. And I have a son who is 20 years old, and I have a granddaughter. Actually, it's her birthday today. She just turned 3.
Happy birthday.
She's just, oh my, she's amazing.
That's
And
lovely.
she meaning my granddaughter, who she's the one that's motivated me to start my business, really.
Okay, so
Yeah. So
when
when she was born, I wanted to kind of like get an item for her, um, like a baby grow, but I wanted the baby grow to have like an image of, say, a black child. So it's a reflection of what she looks like, and just for her identity. And I couldn't find any products really. Thought, well, I need to create something. So that's that moment when the idea came, and I kind of like pursued it, and I made samples, and I got samples. I played around with the idea, and once I started doing samples, I found that there was more interest for adult versions of the baby grow. So that's when I changed the whole concept to Freedom Free Store. Now freedom free to me, it means freedom of expression, freedom to be who you are, and you can express that through a t-shirt, in terms of what you represent, what you want to say, without it being very political. You can just have a t-shirt that has a political saying, but you have to express it to people, and it's a conversation point as well, in my view. So freedom free is, be who you are. It's inclusive. It's about what freedom means to you. Like, I want the customer to kind of like answer that for themselves. So what does it mean to them? It's the freedom to create. It's freedom to be, who you are, really.
I love that, because there's been I don't know recently, but you've definitely, I think, ramped up the inspiration on your with, I think it's Mary Angelou's, there's some quotes from her on there. I think it's fantastic.
Yes.
And it's really interesting because I watched some other content, and she features quite heavily, like a very inspirational person, and it's lovely to sort of see that
Yes.
in your content. So so you're doing that. You start for freedom expression. You're a young mum, right? Doing all this stuff, and now you're like, you're now trying to leave this legacy for your family. How inspiring is that? I mean, like, starting from that
it's about
difficult,
creating generational wealth, as my mum is doing for myself and my siblings. What I feel I should be doing for my granddaughter and my children. So it's the same as what my mum's dad did. My grandfather, he left a legacy. So I just think it's important for me to carry on and have something for myself, and something to I can be proud of, and something that my children can be proud of.
and I think they will. Well, they are proud. I mean, look at you doing it. You're actually doing it. You said your grandfather or something. So this entrepreneurial business stuff seems to be running through the family. Like, so you didn't tell me about your grandfather.
Well, it really does, because my sister runs the business, as well as my brother. So they all do something, and on top of that, trying to get involved with the family business as well. So I think with the business, owning businesses, it's just the whole idea of.
So yeah, I mean, like, because your grandfather, what was that business then? What was going on for there?
Granddad was into like agriculture, so he owns quite a vast amount of land, which he still owns now. Well, it's been inherited by his children and grandchildren, including myself. So there's like acres of land where my mom or the family can utilize if they wanted to grow crops, which my mom does. So she, i.e., like rice and beans and sweet corn. And we're talking about 15 to 20 acres, or sometimes 40 acres on products. So
wow, that's a lot of acres.
It's quite vast, considering Granddad had bought this in probably like the 40s or something, God knows when.
Wow, so it's like goes back. Wow, so it goes back. So like this, your whole family's involved in business, so it's like natural. So have you ever had a job like have you had a job like a job where you're not the owner? Have you had a job? And if you have, what was it?
Yes. So prior to starting Freedom Free, I was working for a homeless charity in my local area. So I was supporting young people with housing, helping them apply for necessary benefits. I was also an advocate for these young people. Based on my personal experience of being in the care of the local authority, I felt like I was the voice. Sometimes within these things, you have the, white collar guys, blue collar guys, they don't have no understanding of the personal experience or, that a young person goes through. And I had, so I was able to connect easier, and young people were able to open up more to me. And it was such a rewarding job, but at the same time, it's just really draining in terms of emotionally, because I'm an empath, so that's kind of like bring some of the problems home with me.
Right,
So
yeah.
that was impacting negatively.
How did you deal with
and also I had a placement at Centrepoint. I was in London Met University. Sorry. I was in London Met Uni, so I was on a placement at Centrepoint doing something similar as well, working with young homeless people.
Wow. I'm just going to say wow for that. That's like you say, you're an empath, you're helping people. Yeah, because that's why I want to get through our audience. So because like, we've got a vast, it goes across the, globe really. And I just want to I want to be educated because, we all talk about, Black Lives Matter and, and all young children and how they impacted and stuff like that. So what's your take on the Black Lives Matter movement and generally how that job's impacted a generation, do you think, or how you've impacted it, and what do you think the understanding is out there at the moment? What do you think needs to change, if anything? What are your views on that?
I don't really have a heavy view on the Black Lives Matter per se. I do believe that there's not enough representation of minority groups. There's not enough understanding in terms of like, the professional, work arena. There is racism exists, and I only say that based on my personal experience. I can't speak for anyone else. I've experienced terrible racism within the work field. I've experienced favoritism, and it's very obvious. It's very, very obvious
Is it?
to the eye.
So what? So how did you? So
to me, and that's what kind of led me to leave some jobs as well.
Wow. So the fact that this does play significantly in your life, right? So this whole thing. So, don't name names because we don't want to, do it. But any examples of that? Because
I wouldn't do that.
Well, what I'd like to know is like, I want our audience to become aware. Like, well, for me as well, for me personally, I'd like to become more aware. Like, I would never want that for me to do that ever. Would never want anyone to think that. So, what was an example of what happened to you, and and what advice would you give to people maybe in that situation?
Yeah, I don't want to go into detail in terms of what happened to me. It'll be obvious if someone watches it, they'll know.
Yeah.
But I would say people be aware that there is inequality. There is inequality. It's in statistics. It's within school systems. It's within our prison systems. You can have a look around in terms of like the stop and search. Who gets stopped and searched more. That kind of stuff. It's just understanding that there is inequality. I believe that's a first starting point, and not denying that it doesn't exist or denying that racism exists. I think that's a starting point. Have you?
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I think that's a thing, isn't it? Because I know I went to Eastbourne, there was like a rally, went there, and there was a lot of, it was brilliant to see people uniting about it, and as I say, I think it's just important. I think we included it there because you just said that you've experienced it, and I think it's only fair that that people are aware of it because it's going on. Even now, in the midst of this whole awareness piece, and so I just think about your story. It's incredible, right? You come to a different country, run away from home, been away from your mum,
and I'm still here.
You're still here. You survived, right? Survived, but not just survived. You thrived.
Absolutely. But the one thing I don't do is I don't have a victim mentality. I absolutely don't have that because it's not what happened to me. I believe that's a dangerous space to be in because you can be depressed or feel really low about it and spend the whole life feeling low and depressed, reflecting on things that actually can't change. And I'm big on like just working on things I change and also I'm more about solution focus as well. You know, I have to think about the solution. Otherwise, it will become, issues will become problematic if you don't have solutions for them.
So if someone's in victim mode, you said victim mode, what would be your advice to them? What would you say to them? Someone's like, I suppose blaming the world, right, for where they are, I suppose, and because it is a tough world out there, right? It's difficult, it's hard, right? Especially where you come from, not what you've been doing.
I think you just have to own your feelings. That's number one. You're allowed to feel that. Feel it, scream about it. And I think sharing your problems with someone you trust, it doesn't have to, I think sometimes it's better to speak to people that are not family. I think sometimes the element of being judged, or, there's a stigma of opening up to your family, I just think speaking to people that you feel you can trust, writing in your diary, documenting it, and also I recommend having therapy. Really would, because in that sense, it's like it gives you tools that can help you to cope without self-destructing.
Yeah, I think
that's my personal view. I think therapy is helpful, whether it's talking therapies or whether it's exercising or whatever it is. I think it's always good to kind of like seek professional help.
Yeah, sometimes difficult people to reach out, isn't it? Yes, sometimes people don't want to reach out, do they? So it's that whole thing about making that first step and just trying to be a bit brave, isn't it? To say, look, I am struggling here. So yeah, we definitely encourage go speak to someone like a professional, your doctor. I know my dark days, and I'm not going to speak to you because everyone knows about it.
Absolutely. And I think more so, like with my work with young people, I found young boys were more impacted with these issues because they find it harder to open up. And I done a paper when I was at uni doing a social degree. I done a paper when I was doing sociology. I wrote a paper on suicide, so male suicide, and I had a better understanding. I've done a research, so I have a better understanding in terms of how it impacts men more. It's that whole case of not talking of your problems, or you need to be strong. You're a man and man up. Those kind of like words can be very harmful, and that kind of tends to stop young males or men going to get the help that they need. And it's a big concern. It's a big issue in our community, in our society, and it doesn't discriminate, race or ethnicity or anything like that when it comes to like male suicide and depression. So it's a scary one.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
To summarize, my advice is to always seek help from friends or professional help.
Yeah, I would second that. 100% second that, because when I was in the early 90s or 90s to 2000s, or before the 2000s, but it was very much, or early 2000s even, it was like it wasn't really talked about. You couldn't really talk about it without there being people sort of, like that whole, there's a bit of a, there was quite a lot of a stigma around it, but it's better now, but it still has to be those conversations, definitely. Challenge awareness.
There's an awareness, but I don't think there's as much as it needs to be.
Yeah,
it's bad. I don't know the stats now, but I don't know how many men take their lives because of the stress and depression and not being able to feel you can talk about your issues or talk about your problems. It's a concern, really.
Yeah, definitely 100%. And I was lucky enough to do, like you say, because I was lucky enough to work for a year for the Samaritans. So having those calls, it's like definitely a problem. There's still that conversation still needs to go on. So yeah, just reach out. I definitely agree
absolutely.
With that. Got to reach out.
Hopefully this podcast someone is listening and that this can help them and just give them hope, really.
100%. And what I'll do, actually, because it's got on YouTube as well, what I'm going to do
is reach out to me. Reach out to Freedom Free Store. I'll respond back.
Get that. Reach out. Look at that, guys. But yeah.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
I'm here for that. I'm here to support. I'm here to empower. So nothing's really changed from my professional job to what I'm doing now. I'm still a positive person. I'm still a good listener. I'm all here for people.
That's lovely. It's lovely. So, okay, couple of questions for you. Because we're going to we're sort of coming to the end, but we're going to ask. I've got a couple of questions I want to ask you. So, what is your?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
What was your biggest challenge and how did you overcome it? What would you say your biggest challenge is? I know we talked about a lot of your fright, but is there something significant And how did you approach it? How did you get through it?
In terms of like life in general, my biggest challenge was gaining the confidence to believe in myself. I think was the biggest challenge, and it took a lot of self-reflection. It took a lot of reading self-help books. It took a lot of me making mistakes, and yeah, all of the above. I think that was the biggest point, like believing in myself. And in regards to business, the finance fund, like to finance my business, to start up the business, it's not, it was a challenge initially trying to get something, for samples and marketing and stuff like that, but somehow it worked out for me. I was very persistent and I was adamant. This is just like my mom, like, I'm gonna get this. This is what I'm gonna do. By the 1st of January, I'm gonna be self-employed full time. So just actually believing in what you're saying and following it with action. I think that's just worked well for me.
So belief, action, persistence, those are the keys, it sounds like to me, that happened. And having
absolutely, and love what you do. Like, I wake up and I just absolutely enjoy what I do. I look forward to my days. It's not so structured as it used to be when I was working in the corporate world. It's not as structured, and I like that. I like that freedom of being able to be at home, have my granddaughter here. I can still be designing or something or emailing, and it doesn't impact on my life or negatively. It's a beautiful space for me to be in at the moment.
A beautiful space. I love that. And that freedom, like, that is the freedom, right? You're living the freedom, which is coming across. You're living it.
Absolutely, and I love it. I don't have anyone breathing down my managers. If you're watching, I don't have any more. I have less stress. I have a purpose. I have a bigger purpose now, and I have to just be consistent and work harder, because I want my business to grow. My business will grow, and just working on that and finding new ways to improve.
Persistence, I love that. Hard work, I love that. Making it happen, the freedom, that coming together. These are the big rules of success we're hearing right here. These are the things that are actually working. You started this business from scratch, right? Someone's going to ask. There's something it was
from scratch, less than 3 years ago. The concept was when my granddaughter was born, and then the process of doing samples, and then being definitive about what I want, and then doing my business plan, getting my business loan, doing my samples, and doing my market research, marketing. It's just exploring and putting my stock in stores and stuff like that. So it's been a process, not been an overnight thing. And that's the assumption that some people might think, you're doing all right, you've got your stuff in the shops. No, it just wasn't like that. I had to kind of figure out the quality, who are the best suppliers, have the best quality items, and thinking about the customer and making sure that customer has that customer experience,
The customer experience, yeah. And I think
I've still got a long way to go. Relatively brand new business, so I've still got a long way to go.
And you're putting in a ton of hard work, so I could see on Instagram, and I just see that. Like, I don't see all the thing that's behind it. And again, it's that whole thing is where people want the things. People want things straight away, don't they? They see you the top of the iceberg, but they don't see all the purpose behind it, the hard work, the mistakes. You probably made a ton of mistakes, right? Because nothing happens without making mistakes.
Honestly, I've made so many, and sometimes as well, I've had people discourage me from doing what I'm doing now, like just being really not very nice, like no one's going to take you seriously in the industry. People have made comments like that to me, but because I believe in myself and I believe in my craft and I believe that this is going to be a success, I don't really pay attention. But if it's someone else, that could have broke them down and made them live in their dream. So another thing I would say before this podcast is over is, like, you have to really follow your heart, follow what you believe in, even if other people are, discouraging you. Just don't be discouraged. That would be my advice to anyone in business. Any idea is a good idea. You can work on it, you can change it, but just don't let anyone tell you that you are not going to make it, because that is not true.
Love that, because a lot of that time is like, those people may have lost their own dreams, right? They might have lost the hope in their own dreams, and they're trying to put that on you, maybe. So I love that.
Exactly, and I mentioned this to one of my friends the other day. It's the deflection. It's like you're not brave enough to live your own dreams, so you have to dampen someone else's ideas or whatever they're going for. But I'm just glad that I've to the of this age. I'm 40 years old. I'm just assertive. I'm strong. I'm powerful. So I feel like there's no stopping me really. And my kids are grown. I have time in the world to literally focus on myself and the business as well.
Love it, absolutely love it. So I've got a couple more questions. What's the big vision for Freedom 3 store then? If you're going to paint a picture for where you want it to be, the biggest version of that, what would it look like?
Okay, so according to my business plan, in year 5, but I don't always have to follow the business plan per se, because this can happen before my 5-year. So the idea is I want to I don't want to give out too much of my secrets, because there's some people that are watching this.
Are they?
Might,
there's still some secrets today.
So I don't want to say too much, but I do see myself collaborating more with corporate companies and printing for them and printing for schools. Also, I want to get into school uniform kind of market, like for their PE kits and stuff like that. So that's what I'm working towards, and that is in my business plan and is within my reach also.
I love that. It's within my reach already. Like this is already believed. It's already happening. You've already got it there. It's fantastic.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean,
there's no doubt.
People around me. I have amazing people that support my idea and support what I do. I have great friends who are business people that they love the whole concept of representation within my brand, and what I'm doing, and also looking at my story and my history. A lot of people want me to win, and I want to win myself. So I feel supported from all angles. It's a great space to be in.
Lovely. And it's important who you surround yourself with, isn't it? I mean, they say you are the product of your 5 closest people. So always have the people close to you that are going to support you. They're still going to provide you with objectivity, but they're going to support you, aren't they? And I think that's a really good message there, because, you can have those people, like you said, that are going to try and maybe kill your dreams a little bit. And those are the sort of people you need to spend less time with, because they're not the sort of people who, maybe they're not even in the game themselves, right? Like you said, they're not in the game themselves, but they're trying to, just trying to sort all that. So it sounds like you've got a great support.
On the sideline. Yeah,
absolutely. Right. Okay. So
I do. I'm just so lucky that I do have a great support. And not just that, not everyone has to love what you do, and you just don't pay attention to those people that don't understand your vision. And it's not for everyone to understand your vision anyway. It's your dream.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. You're going to get people. You've got to accept that not everyone's going to like you, right? You've got to accept it, or like the things that you do.
Right.
And I think that's something that I used to struggle with that, because I do like to be liked, I must admit, but you've got to get past that. Otherwise you'll never.
Do you?
I do like to be liked, but that's my human trait, right? But I recognise that's not.
Well, it's human, I guess. Yeah.
It's not realistic, because it's not. It's just not. But I've recognised that.
No, it's not.
It's exactly right.
You could be the best person in the world. You could be so sweet and so helpful, but someone will still find something that they don't like.
100%. I had that very early on when we did this. There were people on social media who were not liking this. You know who you are. Anyway.
But I just don't understand why, because you're putting out positivity. And I just don't get that. I can understand if you're putting out loads of negative stuff.
Well, it just
doesn't make sense sometimes, but it's not for us to make sense of something like that anyway.
But I've got a lot of empathy for people who are going to put comments like that on, because I don't think what their life must be like. What are they going through to be able to take their time and energy to post something negative about it? I do feel that empathy for them. I do, because it must be difficult.
I don't know. I'm a bit different now, because having the empathy for something negative is putting my energy to something that's not great.
I get it. Yeah, I get that too. I'm just thinking where their life must be at to do that.
I just wouldn't give my energy for that.
Brilliant. I love it.
But it's just a learning process.
Focused.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And I suppose if you're an empath, it's hard to change who you are, and you shouldn't change who you are.
Caring, right? Caring. Okay.
Yeah.
So I've got one last question for you. We know what inspired. We know what inspired you, right? I'm just going to recap that.
Mm-hmm.
You got inspired by your mum, inspired to live that life, to sort of start that business. You're inspired by your family to leave a legacy with this Freedom Free Store, to live that life so that people can feel empowered and say what they need to see, the power of clothing, right? So be who you are through the power of clothing.
Absolutely.
I love that. So I would just say we've got our audience in Inspiration Nation. So just give our audience something. Can you give us something that would inspire our audience? What would say something that will inspire our audience and us to live a more inspired life, to reach for our goals and not to hold back? What would you say to our audience? And I'm going to take some board as well, by the way.
Well, my key word for Freedom Free Store is always feel free to be you. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. So
so my thing is, I always say, feel free to be you. Yeah, feel free to be you. Like, yeah, and that's that. Just don't worry about what people think. Obviously, as long as you're not harming anyone, don't worry about what people think. Focus on your goals. Focus on family. Focus on being a good person. And that's the key word. Being yourself and a nice person, you will be rewarded greatly for that. And I'm a live example.
I love that message. So yeah, I totally resonate with that, and I think it's be you, be an authentic person. Just reach out and just be the person you're meant to be. And it's hard sometimes because we try and we sometimes try and be someone we're not, and we shouldn't do that. But I love this whole message you're sending out. It's fantastic. Okay. Well, Lucy, this brings us to the end of this podcast. So thanks very much. I love the message.
Oh, already? I thought we was going to spend another hour in here.
We could spend another hour. Maybe we have a part 2. You get in contact. We'll have another part 2, right? You reach out. We can reach out to each other.
I think a part 2 will be great because we can touch on other subjects. We have great banter and great conversations. So why not? I'm happy to have another.
We'll maybe come back, like when you're hitting the next phase of your business, come back and talk about that and how that's gone. And I think that'd be great. And then we can build on that. So we're going to keep a track on the Freedom Store journey. I think Freedom Free Store journey. I'll get that right because you'll pick me up on that. Freedom Free Store journey.
I'll be happy with that. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah. So where can people find you? So where can they find you? How can they in contact with you if they want to connect with you?
Okay, so I'll start off with my work phone number. You can call Freedom Free Store on 07 855 774 100, and that's for orders. You can text, you can call during working hours, and also you can email freedomfreestoreinfo@gmail.com. And also I have stock in a store in Croydon called Nashat. It's 101 Church Street, Croydon. I have my designs in there, so you can pop in there and pay there, and obviously observe social distancing. But it's a lovely store in Croydon. They have other designers there. They have health foods and books and stuff in relation to the minor groups, main groups and stuff. So it's just lovely, a lovely space to be in. And also you can DM, direct message me on Instagram to make your orders, or like I said before, if you're going through a crisis and you just feel like you need someone to speak to or message, I'm always available. And that's Freedom Free Store on Instagram, and also Facebook, Freedom Free Store.
Fantastic, Lucy. It's been lovely. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. So carry on the good work. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you for your time.
So there you go, Inspiration Nation. We've had Lucy on. From the Freedom Free Store. So guys, go visit the Instagram page. Go do all that. And as I say, we'll catch you on another podcast. So it's Inspiration Nation, guys. We'll catch you guys later.